Good morning. Welcome back to the Countdown to Ironman Lake Placid video series. My name is Joe from Endurance Mentors, and we are 17 weeks out from the race. Hope everyone's training is going well. I cleared my sickness from last week and am back to training at a normal clip again, which I'm feeling a lot better about. I'm sure many of you have been through the same thing over the last couple of weeks, but the weather is getting a little bit better here in the Northeast and starting to look towards outdoor workouts more. So we're really excited. Today, we're going to be continuing our kind of sub-series on nutrition. And we've talked about weight, we've talked about nutrition. And today, what we're going to be talking about is a way to think about alcohol and the endurance athlete. Something I wrote a blog post about a few months back, and I think is a helpful way just to think about consumption of alcohol when it comes to Ironman training. All right, let's get into it. So here we have a blog post that I wrote back in January of this year. Should you drink alcohol as an endurance athlete? And I thought this might be important to put in the Ironman Countdown series because I think this is a question that many of us have asked ourselves over the years, and I'm certainly one of them. Alcohol is one of those funny things that, if you do consume it, oftentimes that it's not necessarily helping your training. But it's also sometimes difficult to avoid, right? We're training for the better part of a year. In that amount of time, even if you really consume very little alcohol, you get invited to the weddings or the work functions, and there's just such a big social component and when you're Ironman training, sometimes, you really do want those social environments and you want to take advantage of those because so much of our time is spent training alone, independently. So that, sometimes, having a drink or two is really nice and can be a real social lubricant and can even, I think, give you a little mental break that might even be a good thing. But over the years, as I've thought about this for myself, I have to be honest and just say that alcohol consumption does not help Ironman training. It certainly doesn't help mine. To each his own. I'm not going to preach and tell anyone what to do. But if we're getting to the point now in training, 17 weeks out from a race, that our Saturdays and Sundays in particular are now all big workouts. We're all in the same boat now. Regardless if you started early or started a little bit later, the volumes are pretty high, and you really want to be at your best. And that actually goes for during the week as well at this point. So over the years, I've kind of started to think about alcohol consumption in terms of recovery. And I've actually felt like this has been helpful in moderating alcohol consumption and also just making decisions around, when to consume. And the foundation here is just that thinking about training is really, really important. But it's the consistency that gets you to the next level, that really leads you to an improved performance on race day. And let's think about it. To be consistent, you have to train effectively, train an appropriate amount, recover from that training, and then be ready to get up and do it all again tomorrow, for the most part. So that's a lot on your body as it is. That's a lot of recovery, right? So when over the years, I started to think about kind of alcohol in those terms, right? So if it's a Saturday night and my wife and I are going out to dinner, but we had, a 3-hour bike ride followed by a 40-minute run that day, your body is going to be so tired. Not to mention we have kids running around trying to catch up maybe on some work, from the week, whatever it may be. So your body already has a high demand, a high load to recover from anyway, to be ready to get up and do your next big workout the following day. Well, if we're being honest, alcohol, your body needs to recover from that too. Okay. So you have to recover from your workouts. You have to recover from your day-to-day life. And anytime you consume alcohol on top of that, your body has to recover from that alcohol as well. So what the question to me is, it's a question of bandwidth. Like, how much recovery bandwidth do you have? And when you start thinking about alcohol as something that adds to the amount of recovery that you're going to have to undertake each and every day, to me, that's actually been a fairly good deterrent as training has, increased. The other thing about alcohol consumption, just for me, is alcohol really ruins my sleep. And again, thinking about recovery, sleep is definitely the most important aspect of recovery. There's a lot of tools out there that you can buy. There's nutritional tools that you can take advantage of. There's, different, you all see it. You go online, just look around. There's a zillion different recovery tools. None of them even come close, though, to a good night's sleep, right? And the other thing about alcohol, at least for me, is it just ruins my sleep. And I suspect many of you are the exact same way. So not only when we consume alcohol, are we increasing the amount that our body has to recover in a given day, but now we are also hindering our most effective recovery tool, that being sleep. All right. So this is kind of the way I've started to think about, alcohol consumption as an Ironman triathlete. Now, what does this mean kind of throughout the season, right? Because I am one of those people that likes to have a beer with dinner, or even after a day of working outside in the yard, whatever it may be. What does it mean though practically? It just means that as your workout loads increase, right, or as your recovery demands increase throughout the season, kind of peaking up to, in this case, we're talking about Ironman Lake Placid. What ends up happening is, if you're thinking about it this way, your alcohol consumption just sort of goes down as your training goes up. That may seem, pretty obvious, and I think it really is, and I think it's actually a pretty simple way of thinking about it. But I do think that, it helps to make those better decisions, because we all know that, you have one drink, maybe it leads to a second, right? And that's something that you end up just going down this rabbit hole. And yeah, it feels good at the moment, but then maybe you find yourself not 100%, for tomorrow's workout, which is not really where you want to be, right? Like, you put so much time and energy and effort into this training, you want to do your best. All right. So thinking about alcohol in terms of its recovery impacts, both adding to the amount that you have to recover from and reducing or limiting sleep, which is your number one recovery tool, I have found helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful for you too. Okay, I'll link to this blog post in the description below. If anybody wants to read it, just click through, feel free. And then, yeah, listen, we're 17 weeks out. Hope everyone's training is going really well. I know that we are really excited to start getting back outside again training. And I wish you all the best, and I'll catch up with you next week.